9 when we crown it all with the world of sports. Well, a very interesting week we are in, and we continue with efforts aimed at creating awareness and also fighting corruption. We are in the anti-corruption week. On the 9th of this very month, it will be World Anti-Corruption Day, where we aim at ensuring that corruption, the cancer, comes to an end. According to a report from the IGG, we lose about 10 trillion annually. And if you're to think about that, our budget cost is about, for the financial year 2020-2021, is about 44.7 trillion. Now, if we lose a trillion of that money, then that is something very, very creating alarm to us as a country. When we look at that, how many schools could have been built? Recently, we saw a school that was built in our neighbor, that is Tanzania, by our lovely president to fulfill a promise he made to the late Pombe Magufuli, former president of Tanzania. That cost about 28-point-something billion. That means in a trillion, each trillion has 1,000 millions. Think about that. How many such schools could have been built if it wasn't because of corruption? We want to look at fighting corruption, a fight that starts with you. Many times you look at government officials, they swindled, they took. But remember, it starts from the grassroots. If you fight it, if we instill cultures in our children that this is an evil, then one day corruption will be history. Now, joining me in studios to discuss this is the Peace Service Ambassador, Milton Kambura, who happens to be the president of the Global Peace Foundation, but also the founder of Integrity Uganda, an author. He has written a number of books, and one of them that I love so much is called Nurturing a Competent African Child. Very interesting book in case you've not yet read it. There's so much there regarding the future of Africa and the child. I'm honored to have Milton with me on set as we discuss a cancer that is killing our country slowly by slowly, which happens to be corruption in this anti-corruption week. A lovely morning to you, Peace Ambassador.
How is I'm very glad I'm here and hosted by yourself. I really love it. Ugandan this week is important in the history of our country because other than COVID-19, I think corruption is the most deadliest, even beyond COVID. So let's work together. Let us build a corrupt-free Uganda, which begins with you, myself, everybody. We got to work together and end the scourge, which is more dangerous than COVID, even than HIV/AIDS.
Talking about how, let's look at how dangerous it is. We have global rankings. We also want to look at to Uganda. What has been the impact of this cancer?
Corruption right now on the current ranking, we are actually the 139th most corrupt country in the whole world. So out of just 167, the corruption perception index, which is carried out every year by Transparency International, so the whole world knows Uganda is corrupt. It's bad for investment because investors don't want to bring money or their businesses in a corrupt country. It has also come to Africa. We are among the top 20 most corrupt nations in Africa. You can imagine. And in Africa,
out of the 54.
you can imagine. It's a bad story. And as you have said, the IGG's report is true, basically. Losing over 10 trillion, you know what it means. It's such a poor country. It's a developing nation. Our vision 2040, how shall we really achieve that vision? You know, if we are corrupt, we are just swindling money, bribes. I want to employ my brother, my son, my wife. You know, you leave the most qualified, the most competent. So we cannot talk about a future prosperous and peaceful Uganda if you and me are giving and facilitating corruption. And actually, for your information, it's us, you and me, who are facilitating corruption in the country. And I think as an expert in this, I must say that the corruption, the anti-corruption effort in Uganda is not yet even 20%.
When you talk about it's not yet even 20%, we've seen our president on several occasions talking about the fight against corruption. He's the person who instituted a number of institutions in the fight against corruption, right from State House. There is the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. Go to offices of the IGG, look at the directorate, the Anti-Corruption Directorate, Uganda Police. There is so much effort that we are seeing in terms of institutions, even in terms of the laws, because these laws have been able to convict, hold accountable a number of people. Recently, we saw a report from the Anti-Corruption Unit where it said that the Anti-Corruption Court, the 10 years of existence, where it clearly stipulated that they have been able to convict about 100 people and they're supposed to return 70 billion Uganda shillings. Unfortunately, only 1 billion has so far been returned, according to this report. So there are efforts. We must not say that there is nothing being done. But what are the missing gaps? What must we do more that we are not doing?
I must say, the investment we are putting in the anti-corruption effort in Uganda is not matching with the recoveries. That's where it begins. And those of you listening to us today, we must join the fight, because we are putting in, say, for example, 10 billions, and we are only recovering 1 billion. So it means we are making a loss. And we are losing 10 trillions of shillings every day. Our budget is 44.7 trillion shillings. Are we doing anything? Is there value for money? Then it means you and me must join the battlefield so that we recover our money which is lost. 10 trillion shillings is a lot of money. It can facilitate, for example, education, 2 schools per district. You can imagine. Each school has 2,000 students. We are talking about millions of children whose future can be secured. I'm talking about 1 hospital can be built per district using that money. So we need to actually join the battlefield and make sure we report everyone asking for a bribe when you want that opportunity in healthcare.
Kambura, over a time we've talked about the public and we've pushed this battle to them. Yes, we know corruption begins with you and it can be stopped by you, a person watching this program. If you choose not to be corrupt, if you choose not to give that bribe, there could be cost to pay, but if you choose not to do that. But how do we empower this public that we are thinking about, that we are casting this to them? Recently, I saw the IGG and a syndicate of anti-corruption agencies in government coming out with a method of following the lifestyle of key government officials, saying when they steal money, they invest, they have posh houses, they have expensive cars that do not match what they earn. And they still look upon the public. But one said, how will the public then know? Because even when they're declaring their assets, it is not paid, it's not made public. I just feel and goes to the office of the IGG. So how do we empower this public that we expect to be ambassadors, key people in the fight against corruption?
The first thing is that the enforcement of the law has been bulldozed. For example, we enacted a law and passed a law, a bill, and it became a law. The Whistleblowers Act 2009. In this case, the fight of corruption cannot succeed if you do not have information. The whistleblowers, people who are listening to this television right now, are the people we must actually put on the front line to become soldiers of giving and volunteering information about what's going on life audit, which you're talking about. But if someone comes and gives information to the IGG's office, Inspectorate of Government, and say, look, Honorable so-and-so asked me 1 billion before I secure a contract. But this young man is not protected. When he gives information to the police, it is that same police which actually works with the thieves in government.
Hello, there has been someone here.
You can imagine. So we have actually, the fight of corruption will not succeed, for example, if we do not protect the people who offer themselves to provide that information. 2, we all know the judiciary, for example, and the police is the most decayed. It is dead, culture dead. And when I said dead, I mean it. Because it seems it's a culture now. For a policeman to go on the road and we give them over 400,000. But look, they never strike. Those guys never strike. But they are building serious buildings up country. You go to someone and say, yeah, this is CPC so and so. He has his own state house. Where does he get money? He's paid 400,000, and the government doesn't care. And so, whereas we talk about anti-corruption, the fish gets rotten from the top. I mean, the institutions that fight corruption are the ones that we must deal with. If the police is most corrupt, where will the
how can they be able to investigate such cases? Yes.
If the one in front of the court to justify and review and study the case is corrupt, do you think a poor man will get justice? Justice delayed, justice denied. And these are matters of you and me to look around. If we know this government came to power to actually liberate us and put us to the right lane, it therefore must account. The culture of accountability must start right now, from the top to the down. But when I say it is you who facilitate this corruption, it is you. They arrest you, you are driving on the road, and before you even greet, you put money in your head and say, security, how are you? They no longer give money by hand. Now, you seem to think they are greeting. Then the policeman picks his money from the cape. You are not seeing any man on the camera. Now, you are in elections. That man who wants to lead you as a member of parliament is giving you money. You are literally these prostitutes. There is no difference between you and a prostitute.
So you are a political one, just.
You can imagine people are about to vote. These are Ugandans are rotten now. And how can you guarantee the future of this country? And so when you go to the church where you would think, yes, I think but the churches, now they have forgotten to use our tithe to preach the word of God. Now they are building and buying expensive cars. That is corruption, my brother. You go to the mosques. Have you ever seen a beggar on a church, at the doorstep of a church? That shows you something, but you go to the mosque. The beggars are there. They are given food. I am talking about when
Church, Kambura, when we talk about these lamentations actually have been made on various platforms. They have been talked about. No Ugandan, I want to believe now, doesn't know the impact of corruption in society.
Yes.
The Bible says, for all have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. I think that is what I could say, because you find it everywhere, even where you least expect corruption in this country, you'll find an element of corruption. But the biggest problem has been, the biggest question has been, and I want to repeat this, what should we do, or what aren't we doing well? Because when you talk about the laws, personally, in my time in media, I've seen people where the laws have held them. I'll give you one from a principal accountant, office of the Prime Minister. I had just entered journalism when this man was arrested. Till today, he is. You know, the likes of Jimmy Ramafa. There are a number of people. I don't want to believe they were not wise enough. I don't want to believe they were not smart enough, that others are not being able to be gotten. For them, they are more smart enough. I want to believe there was will to have these people arrested. There were investigations. I don't want to believe that they got investigators from Mars or anywhere to come and nab these people. So what is that? That the current laws can nab certain people and they cannot be able to nab other people. That the certain laws have taught lesson to some families. I want to believe families of these people, where one even should die in cells because he was serving his sentence. What aren't we doing right?
What we are not doing right, ladies and gentlemen, is that Sir Robinson recently wrote a book with the title, Change Culture, Change the Game. Laws alone at the central government level, parliament, yes, they will make the laws. But look, the boss does not want some of these bosses The people that we call bosses, the leaders in different sectors. I'm not talking about the president only. I'm talking about leaders from
Right
the
from
parents.
LOC1.
The parent is a leader. LOC1. I'm talking about the minister. All of us, the leaders in the churches, in the mosques, that we don't want the laws to work because they fear to be checked so that the tap that gives them money reduces. They don't want the law. The culture of accountability is dead. You look at public servants. The way they use our cars is different from the way they use their private cars. Oh, it is actually these government cars that they get this they call spare parts to work on their cars. You can imagine what type of country is this. And so where did we get wrong? Shared values. Because shared values build culture. It's where patriotism, we are taking an effort to put patriotism clubs. But patriotism clubs must be driven by shared values. Which shared values build a cultural or a national cultural system. But now here, we don't have common fears, common interests. And so because everyone is for himself and my stomach, not for the country. And so whoever steals in the public, they call him a celebrity. Can you imagine such a nonsense? The man like me, if I stood for probably member of parliament, they will not vote for me because because I cannot bribe anyone to vote for me. After all, I'm coming to serve. Why should I bribe people? Leadership is not business of corruption. And 90% of our leaders in this country first bribe people to be voted to power. What do you expect?
That's the trend. It's an investment.
They sustain the corruption in this country. And when they sustain it, they don't want values of the young people to be aware, consciousness about their country, about values of transparency, of accountability. They don't want that because it will actually block them to be rich.
Milton, you've talked about shared values, you've talked about patriotism, but there are a number of countries that we know which have been able to fight corruption. One of them is Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew.
Yes.
That this person made a tremendous move. That even his best friend, who was his best man when he was wedding, when he took power, he was the first example he began with. We've seen countries, even here in Africa, where corruption is no a go area, because no matter who it is, that person will face the wrath of law. I want us to look at selective justice.
Yes.
Do we have selective justice in this country, and could it be a hindrance, in your view?
Let me tell you, here in the country, if things go like the way they are going, in the next 30 years, people who have integrity are going to die. They're going to die completely. Because if you are not corrupt, you will not sustain your life. Now, it means they will isolate you. So, favoritism, what you're talking about is what's happening. You go and look for a job. They will first ask you, Nani amesendika wewe hapa? Who has sent you here? Not even before reading your papers. In the court of justice, if you don't have someone to make a call in that court, my brother, who's big, they will delay you 40 years until you die. Look at our economics. It is the private sector now facilitating corruption in the country. It's a syndicate now. Companies are set up and there is a linkage with the people who give contracts. So how will the Ugandans, those who have gone to school, because we are educated, we go to Makerere to study so that we get value for the money our parents have paid. We set up companies, and if we are not given tenders and work, construction of roads, then we cannot sustain our lives. But someone is told on the phone, go establish a company because there is a deal coming. Can you imagine the syndicate that is in this thing? Actually, money leaves Kampala before it reaches in Kasese, for example, to do local government work. A lot of systems are in the middle here. At the time money reaches to Karambi in my village, to do a public road, it is 0.1%. And tracing this system to break it will require more than the law. It will require cultural leaders to join the battlefield. You know, right now they are isolated. I don't know they are competing. We no longer need a competition among cultural leaders. We need them to work together because people respect you. Use that enormous power you have, the influence you have, to work together and call on Ugandans to be people and citizens of good character.
men and women of integrity. Well, at that point, allow me come to you, our lovely viewers, this morning. Please, you can be part of the topic of discussion. And we are looking at corruption. We are in the Anti-Corruption Week, and on the 9th of December, we'll be celebrating International Anti-Corruption Day, where we create awareness and see how far we've come from and what has to be done regarding the fight of corruption. Corruption, a free, corrupt country begins with you and me. You choose not to be corrupt. You choose not to give that bribe. Sometimes there could be a price to pay. But remember, you set a legacy and you set an example that others will follow. So you can be part of this topic of discussion by simply joining us on our social media platforms. You can send us an SMS on the number on your screen. You can send us a WhatsApp message on the number on your screen, which is 0709 60 25 92. And I'll be able to read your messages as they come in. And of course, Milton Kambura will be here to give you responses on that. We are still looking at how best we can ensure that this cancer is dealt with. Many great nations in this country that have succeeded, one of the areas they focused on was eliminating corruption. How do we follow suit as a country? Today, it is something we've come to accept and live with. Someone can even tell you, you're going to a public hospital? Have you put some money to give the doctors? It's become a requirement. You're going to move. It is curfew time. Get some change so that you go with. So it is something that we've really become so complacent that we believe it is the way to do things. One will tell you, you're going to look for a vacancy. Have you taken first wait? Who do I know there? First wait. So that is where we are. It could be laughable, but it is a disease. Kambura, patriotism. Some people argue that's not something you should teach. Patriotism clubs, loving a country is not something you should teach. But some believe, yes, we should remind people who they are, where they come from, where we want our country to go. Do you think patriotism can do us good in this? And is it a workable deal for the problem we are facing today?
Ladies and gentlemen, I must say patriotism, how to love your country, is the baseline, is the first national development agenda. Because if we are talking about Pan-Africanism, Africans' integration of markets, of our security intelligence, of our education system, loving our country therefore becomes the first priority of government. And so we must invest heavily to make sure Ugandans love their country. Yes, children are taught to love their parents. What about the country? It's the country that takes care of us. It's the country that feeds us. It's the country that gives us the identity that we have. We must love the country. But therefore, the process of loving the country will call all of us, including His Excellency, that I'm actually seeking his approval to make sure before children transits from primary to the secondary level, first are taken to Changwanzi for a mindset change program and patriotism. Every child must be given an opportunity to serve in the electoral commission, to volunteer on climate change programs, to volunteer in hospitals, to volunteer in security, even security, because children have dreams. Others want to be policemen. They want to serve their country. In the ICT department, give them the opportunity to serve in uniform. Give them very good uniform. They start looking, oh my God. Then when they go back in O level, they know they are the Uganda of the future. That's number one. The second opportunity that we must accelerate and invest in is the program of using technology to make sure accountability becomes 100%.
The e-government system
the e-government system.
Very great.
Exactly. And these Tumbutu, I call them Tumbutu. Someone is just 2 years in the ministry. The man is buried, corruption buries. The guy came from Usoga, they are from Chimnawatata, without even a bicycle. In 2 years, you hear he has 10 floors.
So that is lifestyle audit.
We must, and technology must be engineered to monitor us. How do we feed? What are we buying? All this, everyone must have a TIN number to monitor. Where did you get money? Yes, of course, Africans have their private thing, but we must audit. Every public servant must be audited. You a policeman. You are earning 300,000. We must audit how you. Where do you are you at Serena? What are you doing in Serena? A meal is 300,000. Where did such a money? Where have you stolen that money? We must arrest them. The problem in this country, we arrest some stupid people from the village camp. That nonsense must stop. They arrest you, put you in Luzira. 20 years back, sell
Of course,
everything.
you have the laws that will give such a person.
I want the law to change also. If your son has stolen, they also come for you. You have nurtured a corrupt child. They also sell your land, all your property. Then they know, so that the corrupt
They don't
people,
praise corruption, but they see it. You go to your father's car, father's home.
When the corrupt people must
You've
run
worked
away
for
from
1
government.
year. You're driving a 500 car.
Can you
Just
imagine?
as you go back,
Oh
don't
my
bring
God.
me trouble. Well, at this time,
That
let me
must
look at
stop.
some of the messages
We
that are
must
coming in.
fight corruption.
Kambra is talking of Uganda we all dream to see. But it is us to get us to that dreamland, and begins with you and me. Let's all condemn corruption. He talked about the incident when someone is arrested and the clan leaders, the tribal, the culture leaders all come. Just remind me, after Chogam, I remember of that incident where even with all religious leaders go to visit someone who was fighting a corrupt case. Then we had
They must arrest all of them. Must be arrested.
we had now
all
that
of them.
going to caucuses.
They are blocking
they're hunting
justice.
this, they're hunting that.
Baba Kwata.
Baba Kwatabo. Let's get to read some of the feedbacks that are coming out. It's bad to call it corruption instead of theft, stealing, which sounds tougher than corruption. Punishments are very light. Safety of those report corruption officers is not there. The gentleman, I don't know how clean he is. Thanks for that. Topic Chirabo, Captain retired Chitaka Mayanja from Chiboga. Thank you, Chitaka Mayanja. Then we have another message. Good morning. A fish begins rotting from its head. The leadership of the country is not clean itself, lives lavish, lack of patriotism, and then expect it to fight corruption. That is Hassan from Kampala. Okay. Then we have thanks Robert to have that guest. However, I'm director Seafood High School Sironko. Okay, I didn't get your question. Then we have one. I'm Reverend Misaki. Thank you, Kambura, for the program. If we want corruption to be waved away from Uganda, give police good salary. But I also have a concern about this. I've seen the rich still steal. If you look at people who have stolen this and robbed this country, Milton, none of them is poor. Because actually the poor don't have access to these coffins. These are people who are already blessed, already rich, and the ones you hear swindled billions of money. Well, so I don't know if good salary can hinder that. Then Mohammed, corruption cannot stop. Okay, when we have some leaders that are promoting this, GMU, I'm Godfrey Tapachi in Mutundwe. Mr. Milton, how can a local person stop top officials from being corrupt? He's just asking, how can...
Don't vote them when they come back.
Okay.
Don't vote those fools. Don't vote them. The bad thing, you are bribed. Then the fools come back and steal our money. So what are you talking about? So this is where we must, all of us, work against those hooligans so that we have a government that has clean people. And assessing their performance must be based on character. Not what they have studied. You can be a good engineer, but a good engineer who steals cement. That's the problem. So the character development must be integrated on how we recruit our people, not just where they come from, with the long nose, with the squared nose, who has called, and that is nonsense. Character must be part of the performance assessment, recruitment procedure. We must introduce good governance principles in everything we do. You find a company has only men on the board of directors, no women, no youth. What nonsense is this? So corruption is really...
Okay, let me still look at some of the messages that are coming in. I can see how passionate you are when it comes to the fight against corruption. Maybe if all Ugandans had that, we would be somewhere far. Good morning, Uganda. What encourages corruption is poverty and greed. Uganda government should first enhance salary for majority workers in Uganda. Omukozi Filmon from Arua City. Value the leaders' assets If it is beyond their earnings, the excess is corruption. Therefore, should be confiscated. I think, well, here I suppose support the IGG's move towards that.
Yes.
Then we have also another message. Good morning, Robert. I like your guest speech. I wish it could be in Parliament. And that is I'm Anthony from Zambia. Thank you so much. Finally, for these two, well, a DPC earns 600, but he's richer than anyone. Also check about Umeme. It is a corrupt breeding
I have
basket. That is
one. I have suffered of Umeme. That Umeme, I don't know where they came from, but the Umeme, they must go back where they came from. We are buying bundles, they get lost over in a way, over Satan comes and picks the bundles. Have you expressed some of these things? The business sector, yes, you have been here. But let us also put up a system. You know, Nakalima Mama, Nakalima Kano, I respect you. But we need also to have another department on what we call scientific and corruption system. Because these guys are highly educated.
No, before even you tell us to have more.
Yes.
You know, this duplication of work, the ones we have they done us good? Is there a value for money?
Now this is the time. We have limited budget. Our tax is small. Now this is the time when ministries, be together on the fight against corruption. Not just the Nakalema alone with the IGG. They look at them as enemies, like Satan. It's like they think Nakalema is an enemy. When Museveni is at Kololo talking about anti-corruption, they say, oh, they freeze. Gentlemen and ladies, time has come. Let's start. 30 years. You have been stealing for 30 years. Are you not tired? You are not. You are even going to die. We sell your things, even at a half price. Your children, they even don't care how you sweated, how you stole government money. They are going to sell your properties when you die. Why are you stealing money, you man? You woman listening to me. Stop that nonsense of stealing our money. Let us now liberate the poor man. The poor woman in the village who need Panadol. Even Panadol is not in the hospital. Because these problems, we must end them today. We must pray for these people.
Okay, I like when you evoke the spiritual element there. We must pray. We must end this today. How I wish the fight was that easier for us to bring to an end. Thank you, UBC, for the program. The only way of stopping corruption is to stop voting for corrupt people. Thanks, Okelo Francis from Gulu City. Yes, Milton has talked about that. But we also have, hey, I am Barack from Busia. What encourages corruption is poverty. I wish government could punish those who are suspected. Not only that, even this is a demolish, okay, disconnect them at least for the rest of the time for others to learn. Then corruption shall never stop just because our leaders are selfish.
That one has just given us an open check. Oh, we need to pray. We need to pray.
As we talk about it. And then you have not tested the power of corruption if you haven't looked for a job. I am here, an eyewitness and a victim. We only need ruthless leaders to finish this cancer. If we are not serious, it will kill our entire nation. Other population outside office, outside business, outside active Uganda cannot know what we are talking about. Imagine a police officer asking for a bribe for narcotics entry. Forget it will rotate to his son or daughter.
Yes.
Corrupt officials forget that it will rotate back to them. Everyone's eyes are wide open to swindle money from public offices. I am 10 years into private practice as a senior midwife. I have failed to extend my services to the public until one official told me, Fiona, open your eyes. Well, there's so much that she went through, and she has been able to send that here, but they're very touching when you read through.
And you know how bad corruption is? The talented can never be seen. It is a big disaster in this country. The highly talented, you know, I have been working for this thing for 20 years. So that's how I bleed. The highly talented, they're on the street. While the corrupt, you know, jobs are bought in this country. You give a paycheck, my brother. You pay millions of money. Then the fools are the one in those offices.
Okay, come back. Yes. Let's just tone down on the language.
I am
for
so
broadcast.
sorry.
Yes,
But,
but one of the things I think Febe has brought out very, very importantly,
yes,
and this is what I also want to emphasize. I think Febe, thank you so much for this point. When she talks about it will rotate, today you're swindling money.
It will come back.
You've bought dogs, you have cameras, you have a fence.
It is even expensive.
But the poor, but the poor, you can't sleep actually. Many rich people here in this country cannot sleep. Because you build your wonderful house, you put a fence, you buy the dogs, you have alarms in your car. As you're sleeping, the dog knocks on the car accidentally. The alarm goes, as you're doing that, your daughter along the path to this posh place, she gets stripped. Because the people you're denying what they should get because you're corrupt, at the end of the day, the poor in this country will have nothing to eat except the rich. Yet if we all perform our duties and eliminate corruption, anyone can have a share of the national cake and we can fight corruption.
Yes.
But Milton, let me have your final
We have enough. Actually, God blessed Uganda. I must say, gentlemen and ladies, Uganda has, actually in the whole world, Uganda is the most beautiful and most blessed nation in the whole world. We have too much plenty. If we equally share, everyone will be a billionaire, will be peaceful. But the people who want to just take alone, those ones must be, I think we must find a way of also renewing our commitment to allowing citizens to arrest these people. You give the citizens the power to arrest. Put on your car recorder properly, technology. You have your car recorder, now enforce that law. Arrest this person. You say you are under arrest.
And of course you have to take them to court.
Then you take them to police.
And they are proved innocent and they are assumed
yes,
until proven guilty by a competent court. So how will you sail through the court procedure, which also has its challenges?
And my problem is the police also. Everywhere you go, it is like there is no hope now. So now when people lose hope, they vote a government out of power. That is now.
Milton, I want to thank you for having been part of this show.
So we must not allow
I want to believe the corrupt have had.
They are spoiling our name.
There is not anybody who would speak the truth right to your face as Milton has done this morning. Let's stand together to fight corruption. The fight begins with you as we jeer to the International Day Against Corruption, the Anti-Corruption Day. Please, let's make this country a better place. Say no to corruption, break the syndicate, and we shall fight corruption out of Uganda. Have a lovely day. Ruben is coming up next to take you through sports updates. So much happened over the weekend. Very interesting games, but also the awards. We had the best men in category and the women who received big presents that I saw cars. Wow, looking very good. And of course, I was happy that these people are recognized for their effort. But those and more, Ruben will be here for the sports lovers. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Catch you tomorrow same time. God willing, get that job.